everything that I can, but sometimes I come out as being nothing. I pray to God that he make me a better man. Maybe one day I'ma stand for something.
Feels good to be back.
Tell me ain't nobody better than me. I think that there's better than me. Hope you see the better in me. Always end up better in me. I don't wanna ruin this one. This type of love don't always come and go.
They are raring to go, and so are we.
This type of love don't always come and go.
Welcome everybody to the college football season.
What is up, everybody? This is Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22, where you can find me on Twitter. And this is the Triple Play Fantasy Network and another edition of our Devy Breakdown, Team Breakdowns. And if you missed the first three, go ahead and be sure to check those out. Alabama, Oklahoma have been killing it. I appreciate you guys. Ohio State as well. If you want to take a look at those videos, you can definitely find them on the channel. Today, what we are going to be doing is we're taking a look at the Clemson Tigers. So next on our top 25 list is Clemson. And hey, you know, we talked about this. Dabo's been building a great program down there in that area, and he's done an amazing job. And we're going to get into kind of his depth chart. Look at it. And I will say that it probably is a less deep class and a less deep team that we've seen in the past with a lot of question marks. But if they do hit, they could be Devy values all over this team. So without further ado, let's jump into their schedule and take a look at what they got. This year, first game of the year, Georgia. Cannot wait for this game. And it's in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be an awesome game. I cannot wait for it. It's one of my favorite first week games that we're going to see on the schedule. It's a very good test for both of these programs too. Hey, where are we at? Where are we going to be? Those type of things. After that, really, Georgia Tech, maybe Gibbs being there. Sims, I don't know necessarily if they can beat Clemson. NC State, Boston College could be better this year and all those. But besides that, Florida State, Norvell, is he turning around down there? Besides that, though, it doesn't really – there's no game on the schedule that I'm like, man, they're probably going to lose. I think Georgia's their toughest opponent. If they can win that game and win out, I think they're going to easily make the playoffs, but I think they will win out if they win that first game, unless they have a hiccup here or there, like some college football teams do. But Clemson's been pretty dominant in the ACC. But like I talked about with their depth chart, we're going to see where that goes. Now, like always, we're going to break down their offensive depth chart. We're going to look at quarterbacks, and for Devy purposes, their ADP, Campus to Canton, and their Campus to Canton ADP, their C2C ADP, just kind of looking at overall where these guys come from. But even if you don't play Devy or fantasy, it is still a series that you could watch to see some of these. We're going to have highlights, tapes. We're going to be going through all of these different kind of groups that you have with their positional groups, running backs, which I think they're reloading as well, wide receivers, tight ends, and the 2022 recruiting class. So we're going to break everything down for you guys, have tape, film. So, hey, this is if you're all about Clemson or want to know what the next talent's going to be, this is the series to watch. Now, we're going to first look at quarterbacks, and this is the part I was talking to you guys about when I talked about depth. So obviously we know that they have DJU. Now, DJ is a fantastic athlete. I'm going to keep pronouncing it DJU for right now. I'm still not comfortable with the pronunciation, and out of respect for his culture and his name, I don't want to mispronounce it. And I'm still practicing, but as a teacher, I will be honest with you guys. I'm always real. I struggle with names. I've been practicing, and I just can't get it right, and I apologize. But DJU is an absolute fantastic quarterback. He is being drafted as the QB2 right now. So in formats, he's there, and the 302. So you're getting him in, you're going to have to get him early. Some people argue that he's the best quarterback prospect in college football. And you know what? I can't hate on that. I actually don't mind that ranking. Right now, he's going just behind Spencer Rattler and just ahead of Sam Howell. I would argue that you might want to draft him first over both these guys because of what he looks like, his profile, his skills. Now, last year we saw him a little bit. So DJU last year, he's 6'4", 250. He's a monster of a quarterback. And he's a lot different than like what we talked about with Bryce Young. Like they're very yin-yang kind of prospects. 2020 stats, we saw him last year, 78 for 117. He had 914 yards, 5 touchdowns, 60 rushing yards, and he had 4 touchdowns on the ground as well. So when you watched him play, he showed he has that upside rushing ability as well. So let's take a look last year. And I think this is when he really came out. When Trevor Lawrence had to sit out because of COVID protocol, he came out against Notre Dame, and he absolutely had a great game. In this Notre Dame game, he went 29 for 44, 439 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So absolutely came out, showed what he could do. Loved what his process here, his ability to throw the ball. He's got an arm. He's got a cannon. That is just a fantastic part of his game. He reads the ball pretty well, but his ability to get the ball out and his release and just that arm strength, that's the thing that just pops off. We talked about this on my podcast at Debbie Royale. It's just that arm strength, his ability to get the ball out, like everything he does is good. Like there's no downside to what he can accomplish on the field. He was one of the most accomplished high school players in California history at St. John Bosco. You just see it. He has arm. He's got touch. He's got everything that you would like to see. He understands where he's got to do. He anticipates very well. And as fantasy perspective, which we mainly focused on, he has that rushing upside. He's a good Konami code type quarterback because of how big he is. He's like Cam Newton size in terms of how can he run the ball, being a red zone threat, those type of things. He reads the ball well. When you watch him play, he's a natural leader. He has all the intangibles. He does very good getting off platform and making good throws, getting out of the pocket, all those things that we talk about, like what we want to see from a quarterback, he does. And he can roll from his right and his left. He can go on both sides. He has touch. He has accuracy. I think he worked on his progressions very well, and I think the good thing, and you watch him right here, he's able to stay, get it to his receiver, get on platform, get his feet set. Again, in the pocket, very good. Arm strength, gets it across. All the things that we'd like to see from a quarterback, he does. And this is why I would argue that he could be your QB1 in Debbie formats. If you're going to draft him, especially in Debbie, Campus the Candy's going to get a lot of playing time. His ability to get those back shoulder throws, and that's my favorite throw from him. And I do want to take another look at this one. When you watch him here, he anticipates well. He knows where he's going with the ball, but just to get it out that quick. I mean, that's what sets him apart as a quarterback. He is that good. Now, after that, though, you'll see they have Hunter Helms there, and then they don't really have a lot else on that depth chart. 2 quarterbacks that they were having to bring in, they're probably going to get drafted in the first round of the MLB draft here coming up, and they're probably going to pick baseball. So very, very, very low depth on that quarterback depth chart. If DJ was to get hurt or something was able to happen to him, that's when Clemson's going to be in a lot of trouble. There's no depth at that position. Now, if he doesn't, he is a Heisman candidate. I can say that very plainly. I think that he can be a Heisman candidate this year. And if he leads them to the playoffs, they go undefeated with what he's able to do in his tools. Absolutely think so. But I think we're going to be talking about him as being a number 1 pick in 2 years. That's how good he is. Now, let's talk about running backs, which they've had to retool a little bit. So they have Lynn J. Dixon, ADP of 285, running back 98. Kobe Pace is still there. 2 freshman running backs came in. Will Shipley. He is the highest rated running back that's came in. He has an ADP of 32.19, running back 13. Phil Maffa, who we're going to talk about, ADP 130, running back 46. And then a couple other, Maluzzi and Dukes, guys that are just there on the roster. But let's talk about some different groups. Now, Lynn J. Dixon probably going to get some run. And when we talk about maybe C2C targets, that might be one that you want to look at because he's going to get some run in and some volume there. But I have a feeling the younger running backs are going to come up because those guys are legitimately talented. Now, everybody talks about Shipley. Everybody kind of knows who Shipley is. He's a receiving threat. He's a dual guy. He can pretty much do a lot of different things that they're going to want to see on offense. But the guy that I want to talk about is Phil Maffa because he's one of my guys. I've been talking about him for a long time. He's just someone that I've gravitated towards as a player and as a runner. At prep school, he had 288 attempts, 2,500 yards, 33 touchdowns. And he had 20 receptions for 224 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he actually showed the ability to not only run the ball, but also have that receiving work that you would like to see. He's a massive guy. He's already 6'1", 215. So when we talk about profile and we're talking about, hey, what do we like to see? And if you know me now and you've been following me long enough watching these videos, those are the running backs I like. Give me the 215 already coming into college. Give me those big-bodied guys that have quick feet and can hit holes fast. So let's take a look at his high school tape. You're going to see him here. He's got pretty good lateral quickness. Like, it's not bad as everybody kind of like a bigger guy. And he has some breakaway speed. He's not just that rumbling, tumbling guy that's going to come down the field. He has good quick step. I think his first step is legitimate. Like when you watch him, he's got a quick first step, able to hit the hole. And if he gets to the corner, he can turn that corner and go. He's not necessarily like he's going to get caught from behind every single time. He's got good vision. He does run a little bit upright, and I see that here, and you'll notice that a little bit, but that'll get coached out. They're young kids, but he does have breakaway speed right there. That safety had an angle, and he was able to do it. This is probably one of my favorite runs from him, just in his huddle tape. He shows he's just strong. Like, he has strength, he has quickness, lateral quickness, ability to get through the line, and again, he sees a hole, he's going to hit it. And he played at a very high level school. And he can do this as well. You'll see him in his receiving ability. Not the greatest, most fluid receiver. I don't think they're going to ask him to do too much of it, but he did show that he has that capability and his capability to break away from the line of scrimmage. He has it, and he's just a whole package. The guy that I kind of comped him to is Lindale White from USC. Old school, I'm old. My younger viewers might not remember him. But him and, you know, Reggie Bush, that 1-2 punch at USC, I think that he has that kind of that same profile. I think he's a little quicker in line, and he can definitely hit those holes a little faster, and he's got good vision. But Phil Maffa is my guy that I think that you can grab right now, especially in Devy drafts, and especially in C2C. Like, so for C2C, when we're talking about where he's going, running back 46. So think about the guys going after him or before him around that. Seth McGowan. We don't even know if Seth's going to be playing football anymore. Ania Smith, who I really like, we're going to talk about when Texas A&M. But even then, as a runner, who would you rather have? Brian Robertson Jr. I would rather take a swing on Maffa. I know he's a true freshman coming in, but he has the talent. He has that there. Kenneth Walker III is going around him. Still want to have Maffa. Give me the ceiling. Give me the upside. Maffa's that guy, and I cannot wait to watch him play. And I think he's going to get some playing time this year. He scored a touchdown in the Clemson spring game. You saw him getting some run. Dabo loves this kid. Like, he loves him. He talks about him all the time. And the running backs coach there loves him as well. Talks about how he wanted Phil for this whole time. It looks like his knee injuries kind of is healed, so you don't have to worry about that. He's a guy that you got to keep an eye on, because we could be talking about Phil Maffa as being their running back instead of Shipley. Shipley, their change of pace guy, but Maffa being the volume guy. Keep an eye on Maffa. I absolutely love his profile, love his tape. Now, let's go to the wide receivers. So they have E.J. Williams, ADP of 68.57, wide receiver 25. Justin Ross, we know Justin Ross. Hope he stays healthy. We'll talk about him. Wide receiver 12. Justin Agata, my guy, wide receiver 26. Aju, wide receiver 57. Bo Collins, wide receiver 63. Frank Latson, Dakari Collins. They have a lot of guys. If you notice here, from the guys that we put up, they have 7 guys getting drafted in drafts right now. There's a lot of unknowns about this wide receiver crew. Like, who's going to step up? Who's going to vault? Who's going to get that high production? The biggest thing for me is Justin Ross is getting drafted too high. Wide receiver 12, I've seen him go all the way in the second round. He has a legitimate, I don't want to say injury because it wasn't technically an injury, but he had to have spinal fusion surgery to fix his spinal cord, essentially his neck, and he hasn't technically got cleared to play yet. So they're still trying to get him cleared to play, and he's going as wide receiver 12. That is way too much risk for me. I'm not going to take him there because there was some question marks about Ross even before the injury. He didn't have the greatest sophomore year. He kind of regressed a little bit. So there's some question marks about him as a receiver. I would rather probably go after some other guys going around that area than Justin Ross. But let's go into some guys that I tend to like and they've grown on me a little bit. My first one's E.J. Williams, 6'1", 190. Last year, his 2020 stats was 24 receptions, 306 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He came out of high school, and he was a very solid prospect. He was very good out of breaks. You saw he was comfortable. Now, the one thing that I think sets him apart from his other receivers that around him in that class is his eye discipline and his catch radius and his ability to make the tough catches. And you'll see it here. Obviously, everybody has seen this from the Notre Dame game. He has great field of willingness, and he's able to get balls deep. Like, he's a deep threat. He's going to be one of those guys, that yak guys. But if you watch him there, he's able to bring it in. In high school, he was an absolute great prospect when we watch him, Power 5 guy. You see him here, and his catch radius and his eye discipline is what always pops off to me. He has that ability. He's smart when he runs routes. He can make the tough catches. He's athletic. He does all those things that you like to see. Now, he gets off the line pretty well. Hasn't had to go against press as much. So that's one thing that we got to definitely take a look at. When I was watching his tape, as I was going through some of the stuff, I didn't see a lot of press coverage against him that forced him to get off the line. So I definitely need to see his release get a little bit better. But if you watch him, he makes tough catches. And that's what you like to see. You'll see his yak ability here and his threats, and he can have that breakaway speed. Like, he's quick. He's got quickness. He's got speed. He's got long speed. He has all those type of things that you're looking for in a receiver. I think he's pretty good value right now. And some Devy depleted drafts I've gone to, he's gone like the 4th or 5th round. So that's Devy depleted. So essentially, you're looking at a guy with a little bit of a high upside. I think best case scenario for EJ is that he basically would get day 2 draft capital. That would be a solid receiver for where his value is going right now. Now, the next guy that I just can't quit, and I'm not going to quit because I watched him play in high school, and he was an absolute stud. When I talk about Ngata, in prep school, he had 188 receptions, 3,600 yards, and 55 touchdowns. Obviously, his career stats at Clemson have been down because of injuries, playing time, you name it, what's happened to him has happened to him. He's at 24 receptions, 323 yards, and 3 touchdowns at Clemson. But like I said, in prep school, he was one of the best high school athletes I've seen play at Folsom, California, and he was an absolute stud. So again, when you're looking at where his ADP is going, and when we're talking about Joseph, he's going as wide receiver 26, so right after EJ. Again, I love his talent. He legitimately, guys out there that are watching this, he could be the wide receiver 1 in Clemson. Like, that's how much I love Ngata. Now, let's take a look at his high school tapes, because this is what shows you just how good he was. He's electric. He has a fast release, and he's got great footwork. He's a yak threat every possession. Like, this kid can just do it all. And you'll notice it there. Great footwork, gets off the line, athletic, can score whenever he wants. He's got great footwork. And you'll see here, they use him a lot of different ways in high school. They used him all on end arounds, reverses, up the field, crossing routes, slants, anything here. And you'll see he has the talent. Like, when I'm telling you, like, when everything pops off, the only thing that he hasn't been able to do is stay on the field. If he could stay on the field, this kid could be one of our breakout receivers this year. Now, you watch him here in the spring game, and they talked about him when Trevor Lawrence was playing with him. This is one of his best catches in the spring game, catches on the sideline. He's got good hands. You'll notice that when he catches the ball, he doesn't drop a lot of balls. Elite footwork, has that ability. Like, Joe Ngata has this. Like, he can be that guy. He can be their wide receiver 1. I am that sure of it if he can stay on the field. He also has a pretty expansive route tree. He ran a lot of routes in high school. He's been there for 2 years. He's developing. He's got great size, like 6'3", 210 is exactly where he's kind of at. I would take this. Take it all day. I mean, he's going to be that guy there. They are absolutely loaded at this position. The other guy I'm going to talk about is Collins later. I'll talk about him at C2C targets. One guy that I'm staying away from drafting is Frank Ladson. I don't necessarily see it. I think some guys overvalue Ladson. He is overshadowed by some of this talent that's on this wide receiver core. I could honestly see Ladson maybe transferring either during the mid-year or before the season. I just don't necessarily see him popping off on this group. I could be wrong there. I know he has talent. I just don't know if he's been able to get away from the pack there. So those are the wide receivers that we're going to take a look at. Now, let's go to tight ends, because finally we're going to have some tight ends, I think, and have some talent here. And so we have Braden Galloway, who is a very fine tight end. So not taking anything away from him. But as far as 80, Debbie, not taking him. C2C, maybe. Right now he's going as tight end 27. They don't really necessarily utilize their tight ends too much in Clemson. So, again, you got to always take these things. I actually like Jalen Lay a little bit. But anyway, let's go to the recruit that we want to talk about. That's Jake Brenningstool. So Brenningstool is tight end 26. He's actually going ahead of Galloway. His ADP is 246, so way late here. But let's take a look at what he was able to do. So in high school, Brenningstool had 111 receptions, 1,900 yards, and 22 touchdowns. And again, 6'5", 6'6", he's only 215 pounds. So the one knock on him is he's got a slender frame. But when we look at what Brenningstool is able to do in high school, he's going to be that hybrid option for Clemson. And you know what? I don't necessarily think he's going to get too much playing time this year. But if they don't redshirt him, we're going to see him play a lot of H-back, kind of that hybrid guy. He's not an inline blocker. So I'm going to tell you right now, he's got to work on his blocking if he's going to play tight ends the next level. But his size, we could see him kind of convert maybe to wide receiver, be that kind of hybrid that we've been noticing lately. Like, that's a great block there, but he's not a very good inline. Now, he catches away from his body well. He gets up. He's a red zone kind of mismatch. He can definitely has the yak ability. He's not afraid to be strong and just take that hit. You saw it right there. I love seeing that from my tight ends. But he sets up his defenders well. He actually can change speeds pretty well too. And it's not that he's a hesitant blocker. You'll see him here. He'll hit. He'll go into it. It's just that he's got to learn a little bit better technique. When you watch him play, you can see that he didn't use him that much. He'll go out, and as you see here, he's taking the guy to the ground. He has that oomph. He's got that, and that's what you want to see. But this is where he's going to make his money at Clemson. Red zone, footwork, his ability to get in and out of routes, and scoring in the red zone. I think that he has a role there, and I think that for tight ends at Clemson, which we haven't seen really elevate themselves, we could see him do that. So you'll see him here in the red zone. He has good mismatches. He's pretty quick. Like I said, he's light on his feet. He's 215 pounds. So he's pretty quick for linebackers, corners. He's really tall. So he's got that mismatch a little bit there. He's got a good frame. He's going to grow into that frame. So I think he's going to be a very good Power 5 player. He's going to be a starter at some point. Can he develop into a Devy asset? Sure, he can. He's just a guy to keep your mind on. Hey, can this guy from Clemson step into this? I like him as a prospect. He's got a good athletic frame to build into. He's got some skills when you watch his tape. Obviously, he's going to Clemson. Okay. Now, for my C2C targets, guys that I definitely want to target in the league, one is the guy that just because I think his value, he's gonna outperform his ADP, and the guy's going to do that. I fully believe it. Okay. And the other guy that I want to get into, the other prospect, is Bo Collins. Now he's going to be a freshman. Obviously, he's coming into Clemson there. He's the number 12 weighted wide receiver out of this class, the 2020 class. He played with DJU at St. John Bosco, so they have a connection already. I really think we're going to see Collins kind of jump up into this rotation a little earlier than people are thinking about. Now, I usually don't show film for the C2C targets, but I got to show things on Collins. So you're going to notice him. He's got that prototype. He's got a solid build. He's improved physically. He can jump over. He's got toughness. He's going to score touchdowns. Like, he is a touchdown guy. When you watch him there, and he has that. He likes to use his size to create separation. So one thing is, he's got that big size, that big frame, and he's going to use it, and he's going to use it well, and he can go over the top on defenses. He's probably around 6'2.5", 6'3". He's about 200 pounds already, so he's already got that big frame, the Clemson wide receiver frame that they like. He's got good hands. He stays in front of everything. You'll see him go over crossing routes. He takes the top off the defenses. Like, there's a lot of things that he does well, and that connection with DJU is going to be big, especially for Campus to Canton. Like, he's going to score early and on, and having that connection is key, especially just playing with your quarterback, right? They don't have to have that awkward phase of like, oh, where do you like to throw the ball? When it's this in this position, the defense gives us this look. They already have that together. So I absolutely love that. I love his ability to go over the middle, yak, those type of things. Like, he's going to be there. He does have this. Now, he has great catches and fantastic catches. You'll see it there. And one of the knocks on him coming out of high school was his drops. So you will see that a little bit, but I think he's great through contact. He's a physical guy. He's not going to worry about the press coverage. He learns defenses. He's got all those intangibles you like to see. So keep an eye on Collins. I think that he's going to surprise some people this year, especially with that connection that he has. Kind of wide receiver room that's up in the air a little bit, like who's going to take over that room. I can see a guy like Collins step in and say, hey, I can get some playing time early, and then maybe you definitely have an asset there. So when you look at where he's going, it's wide receiver 63. He might even be able to outplay that this year if he can get on the field. Now, my must drafts, I'm going DJU and Collins just because of what I mentioned, just because I think they are going to be Devy and C2C assets, and obviously you're going to draft DJU if you can. That's not saying something, but I like throwing Collins here just to give you a little bit of a different, hey, you have someone going first overall to someone going, wide receiver 63. That's a fantastic kind of different values that we go over. Now, as far as the recruiting class, like I mentioned, the recruiting class isn't as solid as it usually is at this time. So right now they have 7 hard commits and they have 2 on offense, if you're not counting a kicker. But I'm not going to go over a kicker. I don't have tape for the kickers. But if you go over kind of their assets right now, they got quarterback K. Klubnik is he's a rated 6 right now at the position. He's from Westlake, Texas. And then they have Adam Randall, wide receiver out of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. He's 6'3", 198. Right now, he's a 23 rated wide receiver of the class. So those are really it right now for their class. They got a lot of offers out for a lot of different people. But again, right now the national rank is 25th and they're 4th in the ACC. So not something that we're used to seeing from Clemson. We're used to seeing these top classes. But on the offensive side of the ball, we don't really see that. Now, let's take a look at both of these guys. So first one up, we'll talk about Cade. Cade is a very solid prospect. I believe it was Austin from Campus to Canton who talked about he didn't really see what they saw in him. I think he's okay. I think that he's definitely not DJU or these other guys that we like to see, but he's got arm talent. You'll see it right here. I mean, that's a 55-yard bomb right there to the middle of the field from the end zone. So he has that. He's a pro-style quarterback, but he's pretty mobile. Like you'll see it here. He can move around the pocket. I like his arm though. Like he's got ability to throw on the run and get it to him, and he has good arm strength. He makes pretty good decisions when you watch him, but his ability to kind of get it to the receiver where he needs to get it to, it's great. He's got pretty good footwork. It's pretty consistent. You'll see that dual threat thing here. He's never going to be a burner, but I think he's kind of that mid-tweener. Like he's not just a runner. So he still has the ability to throw, which helps for the Devy profile. Like Haynes King from Texas A&M is a guy that I worry about a little bit. K's a little bit better than that because I think he has better arm talent. Like, oh, hey, he can be on the run, but also he's got the arm talent to get it out to his receivers and go. So he has that. I think the one thing that he talked about is that he does take unnecessary risks in high school, but these are young quarterbacks. They're going to definitely do that. He has had some interception issues, so he's going to have to work on that this year. But he's a guy to keep an eye on. Like, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be somebody that we talk about as being the next guy, but he's okay. Now, let's flip gears a little bit over to Randall. Randall's a big receiver. So the thing about Randall, and when you look at him, like 6'3", 198, he's definitely not one of the highest rated wide receivers that they've had at the class, but he's big. He uses his body well. He scores touchdowns, and you notice that about him. He's got pretty good eye discipline there. Not a ton of highlights for Randall because of where he's at. Now, when you look at kind of his offers, he's going to Clemson, and his other offers that you saw that he was really high up there was like Arkansas, Coastal Carolina, Akron, Alabama A&M. Like he had some offers from some other schools, but nothing like, Georgia was there, Duke. So when we're looking at kind of our 5-star guy, he's not that. But I do like his profile. I like how big he is. I like that he's going to have to develop out there at Myrtle Beach. He could do that. So those are the two prospects there. So when we look at it, we have Cade, who is a very fine quarterback who's going to have to refine himself, get his decision-making under control, make sure he doesn't throw those interceptions, and Randall looking for that development as more of a receiver rather than an athlete. But two good prospects, obviously. Clemson's obviously going to load more as we go, but those are the two guys right now on offense besides their kicker that I wanted to talk about. So just to break everything down, remember, first game of the year, Georgia. Take a look at that. Quarterbacks, where are they going? DJU's going as QB2. Probably is the number one QB asset in college football and in Devy and C2C purposes. Running backs, we got Lynn J. Dixon, who is a sleeper. I really think in C2C that he's going to get a lot of run at the beginning of the year. He's not a bad shot taking him at 285 ADP. Come on. I mean, that's somebody that you can plug in your lineups, especially if you're trying to win on the college side and grab. As far as a pro prospect, I don't necessarily see that. But remember, Phil Maffa is a guy that we watched and we talked about. I definitely keep him on your radar. Wide receivers completely loaded, but who's going to break out? So we talked about Bo Collins. We looked at Joseph Nagata. We looked at E.J. Williams. Talked about our concerns with Justin Ross. Ajuju is someone that we haven't talked about, but I don't mind him. His profile is a big athletic guy, kind of what Clemson wants. But I need to see a little bit more from him, more consistency. Frank Latson, someone that I'm not going to really touch. And Dakar Collins is someone that's going to have to break out as well. Like, there's a lot of breakout guys. Now, who can they – if DJU's throwing the ball, we can see a lot of these guys hit. And so I think whoever picks the right receiver in campus that can, Warden Devy here, is going to get a value if you get the right one. There's a little bit of a risk, though. There's a lot of – if you go through each one of these guys, they got some red flags. And so you got to be very careful. The only one that I think has less red flags is Collins, to be honest with you guys. In terms of his profile, what he looks like, and how he's coming out of high school. And in tight ends, Braden Galloway is there. I'm not taking a shot at him, but Jake Renning still is someone to kind of keep an eye out and look out. My C2C targets, Nagata and Collins, and in your must drafts, Collins and DJU. So I appreciate you tuning in again on the Triple Play Network for this Devy series. So that was Clemson breakdown. Our next one that we're going to be doing would be Texas A&M, my sleeper team for the playoffs. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, I will see you guys next time. Please hit that subscribe button below. We really appreciate all the support out there. Thank you very much.